Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award.
Well, it's crazy. Look, I can talk about a lot of things, and I certainly will. And at the bottom of the hour, we have the great Laura Ingraham here with her new book, Billionaire at the Barricades. But look, I read that Harvey Weinstein flew out on a private jet last night to Europe to get treatment for his sex addiction. I woke up 4:30 in the morning in my own bed laughing when I thought of how crazy this is, going to Europe to get treatment for sex addiction. So I thought, well, that makes as much sense as going to Brazil to treat an addiction to Brazil nuts. Or going to Hershey, Pennsylvania to treat an addiction to chocolate. Yeah, right, that makes sense. Or how about going to Israel to treat anti-Semitic tendencies? I don't think so. Harvey going to Europe to treat his sex addiction would be, well, it makes as much sense to me as going to San Francisco to treat a fear of dirty bums. I don't know if that would or Harvey, it's about the same thing as taking a sea cruise to treat a fear of ocean. Or, I mean, look, if you're going to Europe to get a treatment for sex addiction, Harvey, that would be like going to the Planters Peanut Factory to treat a peanut allergy. I don't think that would. Harvey, you could have gone to the Playboy Mansion to treat a porn addiction. Would that have made sense, Harvey? No. Well, how about going to Iceland? That would make as much sense as going to Iceland to cure your frostbite. I'm sorry, Harvey. Harvey Weinstein going to Europe to treat his sex addiction would be like going to the CNN studios to find a real journalist. Harvey, it would be like going to a brothel to cure your gonorrhea. Or Harvey, it would be like going to a brewery to fight your alcoholism, or a circus to cure your fear of clowns. Harvey, would you think that a doctor would send you to McDonald's to cure your bulimia? I don't think so. Harvey, what if you were a cigarette addict? Would you ask Philip Morris to cure it? I'm sorry, I don't think so. All right, that's the first time in my 22-and-a-half-year career I've used canned laugh lines. I liked it. I thought it was funny. I've never done it in my life. I wrote these at 5 in the morning. But I was thinking about poor Harvey. There's got to be something more to this than meets the eye. And I think there's a tinge of anti-Semitism. I know you say, what? I mean, let's cut to the chase. You heard the tape yesterday in the hotel with that actress trying to get her to do something she didn't want to do, right? He was using all of his power over this young girl while she's repeatedly telling, no, no, no. And we know now that this seems to be common with him, even though he's hired a big Hollywood lawyer to attack the girls now. But more and more women are coming out with their stories about old Harvey. And the question is, why now? Why now? I mean, why now? With all of what's going on in the news, why Harvey now? For me, it seems over the top in the coverage. For years, people knew what kind of person he was, and probably what he was doing stood up for him, wanted to be around and protect him. But now they've turned on him. Why is this suddenly such a big story? Why is the left attacking one of their biggest supporters and donors so vociferously? I'm going to ask a loaded question because there may be something to this. Is there a tinge of anti-Semitic glee in this coverage at this time? I think there is. I'm going to give you some evidence to that effect. It came out recently in the Israel Times that Weinstein had planned to direct a movie about the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising based on the novel, I think, Mila 18. Now, could his seeming support for Israel and the Jewish people have been the tipping point for the anti-Israel New York Times? Is this a way for the Israel-hating mob to come out and say, I don't care how big you think you are, you're not putting any pro-Israel programming out there on my watch. If you do, this is what we're going to do to you. Well, anyway, you could also say that this story is big because Weinstein is so big, and everyone likes to see the big people fall, the harder they fall. But I think there seems to be more to it. The late-night talentless TV hacks like Jonas Schimmel and Mr. Colbert Beggett, had their marching orders to take out Trump. But when this scandal broke, they suddenly became silent. Now they've been let loose to turn their sights on Weinstein. It's a concerted effort to take him out. But again, like Vegas, which we don't know really what the motive is because their story keeps changing every day. What is actually going on here? Is Weinstein, who allegedly going to Europe for his sex addiction treatment, really trying to avoid criminal charges in case there's an indictment that comes down along with his predecessor on the lam, Roman Polanski? We'll have to find out as time goes on. There are big stories. I mean, California is still burning, Napa and Sonoma. People have lost their homes. Thousands and thousands of people are looking for homes. I don't know what the government is going to do for them. I woke up this morning and I said they're going to have to build temporary housing in Napa and Sonoma. And the thought that came to my mind was that when I was a kid, right after World War II, there were Quonset huts, sort of fabricated out of cheap metal. And they were basically in the marginal areas of the Far Rockaway area, the swampy areas of New York. I remember it distinctly. And as we would drive by on the Belt Parkway, my father would say, there are the Quonset huts. And we'd ask as kids, what are they? And they said, well, they're housing for people who don't have any houses. I don't know why Quonset huts wouldn't be such a bad idea. You know, there's something to that. So I'm throwing it out there. Why doesn't the government just build some Quonset huts instead of putting them in $700 a night hotel rooms owned by their friends in New York City and elsewhere? Anyway, there's some good news out there. Everywhere you turn, there's good news. And I would be remiss not to tell you the good news for myself, because if I didn't, no one else would. As you know, I'm the biggest outsider in the history of the media. For someone who's risen so high, I have no friends in the media. It's sad. I mean, I don't hate people. But my ratings came in, as they do every month. And I'm going to give you one example. The number one market in New York is WABC in New York. And once again, and there's some very good people on the station. I'm not knocking them. But I have double the ratings of anyone on that station. That's right. It's undeniable. They may say anything they want. If they challenge me, I'll post the ratings on my website. Savage Nation, number one on WABC. The next one is half my ratings, almost half the ratings. So something is going on. People do actually hear what we are saying when we say it on the program. I can invite you to call. I'm reluctant to get into the hotel worker in Vegas. An engineer now came forward and said he was also shot up by the Vegas madman before the mass slaughter. None of this makes sense. So a couple of hundred rounds come out of the door of this madman's room before he shoots the people. Hundreds of rounds are flying down a doorway, out of a doorway in Vegas, and no security is called, no cops are called. Really, there's nothing that makes sense to this story. The whole thing is a gigantic cluster cover-up. It's being covered up from the top to the bottom. I'm going to tell you something. If you go into a Vegas casino, you can't whisper to someone at a poker table without it being picked up by security, hotel security. But they didn't see this guy coming in with bags of guns and ammunition, enough for a platoon in Vietnam. It doesn't make sense. The whole thing is bad from top to bottom. Terrible. So I'm thinking about Harvey, though. I can't get it out of my mind. And I was thinking what Yiddish word would apply to him. Now, Yiddish is an old language that the Jews created in the Middle Ages. It was a combination of Low German and Hebrew. There are very few Yiddish-speaking people left. A lot of them are left in New York in the Diamond District, and maybe a Delhi man. It's over 90 here and there. But there was a word in the Yiddish language. It was a language with a literature, incidentally. It was not like a low-nothing language. It actually had a literature and everything else. There are people who wrote whole novels in Yiddish. I would say that Harvey is a stalker, a tough guy. But there are other words that are like that, and I don't know that you want to. Does anyone want to hear any Yiddish words that don't relate to him? I can give you some that you may have heard. Like I've used the word schmendrick sometimes. When I say Colbert is a schmendrick, or Schimmel is a schmendrick, a schmendrick is a weak and thin pipsqueak. That's the opposite. The opposite of a mensch, which is a physically small schlemiel. Many of you heard the word, okay, you don't have to do this. This is funny, Robert. Many of you heard the word schmear, like a bagel and a schmear, like a schmear of butter on a bread. That's like been introduced into the English language. Can have a schmear of butter, meaning you don't want a lot of butter. You just want a little butter. But it's also used in the meaning to bribe someone, meaning I'm going to schmear him, right? You've heard about that. Or another word that's entered the English vocabulary is schmooze. You've heard that. It's kind of part of the vernacular, like let's schmooze with that guy, or I want to schmooze with him. That means to hang out with a friendly kind of gossipy talk. How about a schnorrer? That's a beggar, a moocher, a cheapsteak, a chiseler. Who would come to mind when you say that? Don't call me, I don't want to get sued. Or the word schmaltz. It literally means chicken fat. And it also can apply to overly sentimental behavior. If someone says they're like fake crying, that's schmaltzy behavior. I can't use the word that relates to a vulgarism for the male body part, but that refers to a jerk or a detestable person, you know. So there are other words that might come in here with Harvey that, like this is not for Harvey, but a schmigegi is an old one. That's an untalented person. That would apply to Jimmy Schimmel, in my opinion, a schmigegi or a schmendrick. So there's another word that came to mind when I was thinking about Harvey, which was a nafka, which is a not a nice word about women who sell their bodies, but let's leave it at that. Well, that's related to another N word, which is nosh, which is the snack. Even people that don't speak Yiddish say, let's have a nosh now in New York. They don't even know it's a Yiddish word, which means nosh, to have a snack. Then there's the word nebbish. That would be like Woody Allen's role would be an inadequate person, a loser. He always used to play that. Then when he got very serious in his own mind and wanted to be Buñuel combined with Strindberg, he lost me because I liked him better when he was a nebbish than when he became serious. That's the problem with a lot of comedians, which is that they're actually very talented and very funny when they continue to push forth their original personality, which is a nebbish. Then when they think that they're a great star, you know, and they start to act like a great director, yeah, all right, fine, maybe it's good, maybe it's not. Anyway, on this show you hear a lot of mishigas, and that's another word. And I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm having fun. And all I can say to you as I take my first break is mazel tov to all of you. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-SAVAGE.
Is that true? Las Vegas shooters Reno home broken into. This is a crazy BS story if I ever saw one. I had a caller on this show a week ago, right after the Vegas shooting, that said, Mike, I'm driving from Mesquite. I just went to his home, and there's no one around it. There's no tape. I could walk right in it. They opened it to the public so it could be vandalized. There'd be evidence tampering. The whole thing stinks. What can I do about it? Nothing. All I can do is talk. That's all I got. I'm only a talk show host. Don't confuse me with being a politician, because I never was and I never wanted to be. Ever. Unlike some who thought they'd run for office, I never wanted to run for office. I ran from office, not to office. In fact, I always ran from offices. Whenever I go in an office, I try to run out as fast as I can. Sid on WABC, what's on your mind, my friend? Go ahead.
Yeah, just another Yiddish word that I'm quite familiar with. I've heard it many times. Bulvan, B-U-L-V-A-N, Bulvan.
So that would apply to Harvey Weinstein. What does Bulvan mean?
A loudmouth, know-it-all, a boorish, brutish person.
I always thought a Bulvan was like a bullish man, a strong man.
Well, I did some research before I called you, but what I'm reading is loudmouth, know-it-all, a boorish, brutish.
It sounds like every talk show host on the air.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
All right. Well, thanks for playing the Harvey Weinstein name game. I appreciate it. People don't realize I have a great self-deprecating sense of humor. I may be the only one in the history of radio who could take it. I mean, I'm not thin-skinned, to be honest with you. Say what you want to me. I can handle it. Let's try another one out of New York, the land of the whatever. WABC, Sam, again, you have another word for Weinstein in the old language of Yiddish. What would it be?
Shyster.
Why would shyster apply? That's a crook.
Yes, but also a guy that tricks people into getting things that they don't want to give up. And
you mean like with the girl? Like with the girls? Yeah, I don't know that a shyster would apply. Shyster usually means a thief.
Well, he's also in
politics. In other words,
politics.
if you say shyster, you think of a hedge fund operator when you say shyster. When you say shyster, you think of someone who's selling you something where there's no basis for it.
Well, that's his whole image. That's his whole business.
No, look, let's be clear here. Come on. Harvey Weinstein, whether you like the movies or not, is a great film producer. Never forget that. I don't like the content of the movies, but the movies are works of art. You know what I'm saying? Let's not negate his power as a creator of things. He did create stuff. And a lot of people are jealous of him, to be very honest, and they're getting even with him too, because everyone likes to see the powerful fall. It's a well-known fact. I think he's a gigantic distraction from the real problems like North Korea. like the Las Vegas shooting story that keeps changing every 2 minutes, like the economy that's in free fall. Who is going to pay for the $5 billion Puerto Rico bailout? Does anyone have an answer to that? Who's going to pay for the devastation in Texas, the devastation in Florida, the devastation in Puerto Rico? Who's going to pay for the devastation in Napa and Sonoma? I will tell you something right now, and you can mark it down for this day. October 11th, 2017, the sage of the airwaves, Michael Savage, said that not only will Donald Trump not get us or give us any tax rebates, we're going to have a tax increase like you've never seen in your life, because there is no other way to pay for all of these natural disasters. Now, on top of that, you've got war fever brewing on 3 different fronts: North Korea, South America, the Middle East, and maybe Russia. Maybe you could throw in a war with Russia to top it off. As I said before, there's been a soft military coup. They're really running foreign policy. And there's only 3 or 4 wars that I know of, but there's 5 top generals, so we need another one. Maybe we can declare war in Alaska for some reason, and we could have another war for them to get. But something doesn't make sense there. All right, when I come back, I don't know how I got through 30 minutes without. I know it goes by, you know, when you're on top of your game and your ratings are good and you feel good, and God's giving you health, and there's a tragedy 30 miles away and it passed you by, and you thank God that you still have your house, even though you're breathing in toxic waste coming out of the air. You still thank God every day for what you have. Laura Ingraham with us when I come back with a new book, Billionaire at the Barricades. But I'm going to talk with her about news. I want to see what she says, because she and I have great rapport. Right here on the Savage Nation.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Savage, 77 WABC.
Welcome back to the Savage Nation. We have with us my good friend, roll the drums, the big TV star about to launch a new time slot on Fox News, Laura Ingraham, line 10. You're on the Savage Nation.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
I know you were busy before my show, probably doing other shows for your new book, Billionaire at the Barricades, and we're going to talk about it in a minute. But you didn't hear my Harvey Weinstein jokes, Laura, and I need to lighten you up a bit for a minute. Are you ready for these? Here we go.
Okay.
I read that Harvey Weinstein flew in a private jet to Europe to get treatment for a sex addiction. I said, why that makes as much sense as going to Brazil to treat an addiction to Brazil nuts, or going to Hershey, Pennsylvania to treat an addiction to chocolate, or going to Israel to treat an anti-Semitic tendency. Sorry, Laura. They may sound corny, but I woke up laughing writing these this morning.
Oh my!
I knew I was gonna have fun with you today. How are you? How's the tour going?
It's good. You know, I love writing books. I love talking about the issues of the day, but putting a frame around them. You know, everyone's always puzzled by why is Trump doing this, or why the fight with Corker, and they're usually people who haven't listened to your show or my show, because they don't get that conservative populism has actually been really, really popular since since Buchanan, before him, Reagan, before him, even Nixon with the silent majority and law and order, and complaining about big media. I mean, successful presidents have all had a populist core to them, and Trump really took it to the nth degree by taking on the Bushes, the Clintons, and the bipartisan cabal that has run this country into the ground as China has been.
Tell me, Laura, what was the first time you met? When did you first meet Donald Trump?
I met him in 1999. I think it was 1999, 2000, something like that. I can't remember which exactly year, but he was introduced to me by a good friend of mine, and we had lunch in Manhattan. And I was always like kind of rolling my eyes, like, Donald Trump, like, oh my God, Donald, why do I? It was a friend of a friend, and he just thought it would be a fun lunch. So he walked in, and I thought to myself, oh God, he's just going to be one of these blowhard billionaires who just talks about himself. And I was like, why am I here? And I realized at the end of this lunch, Michael, is when I had just gotten into television. So into radio. So it had to have been 2002. Pardon my getting the year wrong. And the entire lunch, I realized by the end of it, he had asked me about, how do you make money in radio? How does the ad split work? How do you get your affiliates? Like, he was just absolutely probing me for all pieces of information about the.
Oh, so he wanted to go into radio before he became president. He probably would have been a better talk show host.
Oh, well, I think he'd be good. But the point of it is, it's not just that maybe he was interested in radio. He's actually just a really curious person. He wanted to know about my parents and my mother and why I became a conservative and what was it about Reagan that drew me in as a young conservative. So he was really curious, and I don't think he talked about himself for more than like 2 or 3 minutes. He was talking
Laura,
about...
let's clear the air. With the Harvey Weinstein groping scandals that are coming out, I'm going to lay a question on you, and I don't know the answer. You never thought I was going to ask this. Did he ever suggest anything inappropriate with you?
Who?
Donald Trump.
No! Oh my
Well, I'm asking, Laura, because there's so much garbage out there about everything. I think that's a very important statement.
I mean, not only not that, but I don't know anyone who has ever said that, who has ever even said that. And I know a lot of people who know him. Now, was he a single guy in New York for a long time? Yeah. Did he have a couple of marriages that didn't work out? Yes. Is he a perfect person? Absolutely not. But I want to be very clear here. The people in Hollywood who were doing the big cover-up of the mob boss Harvey Weinstein with what he was doing and brutalizing these young girls and brutalizing people who were vulnerable and at the very beginning of their careers. Comparing a serial sexual abuser to someone who made some off-color and frankly disgusting comments to Billy Bush is just such a bad effort at moral equivalency. It's so transparent. No one's buying it, so don't even try it. Okay, Harvey Weinstein was known by everyone, Paltrow, Pitt, Affleck, Damon, all of them, and all the executives, they all knew the kind of guy he was. They joked about it in scripts in 30 Rock. They joked about it at the Oscars, and everyone was laughing. Oh, isn't that funny about someone talking about you'd have to blank Harvey Weinstein. Everyone's joking about, laughing about it. Well, there were young lives that were destroyed by him, and people who threatened to tell what was going on, their careers were destroyed. And I'm going to be pursuing the story for the next couple of weeks because I happen to have a couple of really good sources on this. But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Let me ask you, your book, Billionaire at the Barricades, you call it the populist revolution from Reagan to Trump. Let me ask you a question. You worked for Ronald Reagan. How was he able to hold together all the different strains of conservatism while attracting blue-collar Democrats? Is that, by the way, and by the way, is that just impossible to do today?
Well, he had the advantage of, number one, a country that was besieged by the Soviet threat. So Soviet Russia at the time was the big threat to U.S. freedom and U.S. survival. That threat and beating back the Soviets did bring everyone together, and the disastrous administration of Jimmy Carter brought everyone together, going, oh my gosh, we have to beat him in the general election. But remember, the Cato Institute, by 1988, after Ronald Reagan had slapped tariffs on Japanese motorcycles, 45% tariffs to save Harley Davidson, the Cato Institute in 1988 wrote this nasty, long article about how Ronald Reagan was not a free trader and how Republicans shouldn't follow in the footsteps of someone who would put temporary tariffs on steel and protect an entire American industry. And that was the beginning of the real expose of what was happening in the Republican Party. It was the beginning of a crack-up that took a long time to really...
But Laura, you're a big fan of Donald Trump even to this day. I know when we were in Florida together last, was it February, and Newsmax put that dinner together. You and I were at the same table. Remember that?
No, it was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great dinner that night at Mar. But you say that Trump's agenda should not be taken in isolation, but it is really the fulfillment of a movement's yearnings. So having said that, and being a big supporter of Donald Trump, I assume you're still a great supporter. Do you think he can survive what's being thrown at him?
It's not going to be easy. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I do think that he's best suited to actually bring the country back from what is a pathetic state. And Will he be successful? I mean, I don't know. He has to contend with the media that wants him impeached, and a Democrat Party that wants to destroy him, a prosecutor that is completely untethered by any accountability, in a Republican Party that wants to go back to the old days when they got fat and happy and the middle class got hosed. So
he's a man against the world. He's a man against the world. How can he move forward? Let's look at his agenda together, Laura. You're right, billionaire at the barricades, fine. So he started the populist revolution, right?
He continued.
And was going fairly well. Has he achieved any of that populist revolution? I can think of one thing. He stopped, for example, the travel ban was just basically upheld yesterday by the Supreme Court. That's a huge victory, isn't it?
A huge victory. The court decided not to take the case. They had to rewrite the original rule. That was kind of a flub right out of the gate by the Trump people. But they were new at politics. They've learned a lot in 10 months. I think he has. You know what I think he's done? He's held up a mirror to the failures of the establishment. Now, we know now where everybody stands. We know where the Republican establishment is. They would rather not pass legislation, but just kick the can down the road and hope the voters turn out every 2 or 4 years. I mean, they had the chance to do Obamacare. They couldn't do it. And they called Trump stupid. And just on things like the national anthem, Michael. Remember all the people 2 weeks ago who said, why did Donald Trump wade into this? This is bad for race relations. I think it was great. It was exactly the kind of thing that we need in the country, calling out the phonies and the frauds, putting up a mirror to what they were doing, and then letting the people react. I think it was off the cuff, and it was kind of a gut move by him and during that Luther Strange rally. And I think he was pissed about the Luther Strange endorsement that he did. But his instincts are actually really good. He has great instincts, better than.
So Trump is as crazy as a fox, in other words, in your opinion.
He's turned the establishment into a punching bag for the voters, which it needed to happen. And he's now cut a deal with the Democrats on the debt ceiling. That needed to happen. It was incredibly popular what he did, and now he has the people behind him. He's more popular than the conservatives on Capitol Hill, the Republicans on Capitol Hill. We're getting rid of Bob Corker, who's a disaster, who gave us the Iran deal. And one by one, we're gonna take back the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives and give it back to the people. Because
I want to ask you a question about his personality. You write Billionaire at the Barricades. That's your book. I love it. You know him better than I do. You've met with him many times. You've flown on Air Force One. I think I can say that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So you've gotten to know him a lot better than I have. You know his personality. You know how he's made and what makes him tick. Can any man on earth survive this much enmity? That's what I want to know. I don't know how I couldn't take it. If I was that hated by so many people, you know what I'd say? You could all go to hell, and I would just walk off the stage. Take it and let someone else run this garbage. How can he take this?
Well, I think the election and winning tells us the kind of person he is. I mean, if you would have told any of these other Republicans that tried to run, and let's say Donald Trump didn't run, and if it was Jeb Bush and he had the Republicans, the Democrats against him, the never Bushes, let's say he had all of that, and the media and Hollywood, these people would have wet their pants. I mean, they would have just gone running home. Trump endured that Billy Bush embarrassment, the Billy Bush tape thing. All these people were telling him to drop out. He looked at me and said, "Are you kidding me? This is the country. We got to save the country. I'm not a perfect person." But I love this.
I want to ask you something. You say in your book, Billionaire at the Barricades, the populist revolution from Reagan to Trump. Okay. Don't you think that most people feel you need to have grown up in a working class neighborhood and be from the lower middle class in order to be a populist, Laura?
I think most people who don't really understand what populism is might think that. But we go back to Ross Perot, and Trump himself. Pat Buchanan was more of a working class Catholic. But Ronald Reagan obviously went to Eureka College. He had a really tough upbringing. But he was head of the Screen Actors Guild. He was governor of California. He hung around with a lot of Hollywood celebrities. He was a Democrat. But who understood the working class better than Reagan? So it's not about where you grew up. It's whether you trust the wisdom and the understanding of the common, ordinary person more than you trust unaccountable, faithless bureaucracies. Do you want to give more power back to the regular people, or do you want to empower things like the World Trade Organization or the UN or pick your poison and the EPA or any of these other government bureaucracies. So the populists believe this is the people's country. Trade should work for them. Period.
Right. Well, when I come back, I'm going to open up the lines to Laura Ingraham. We're only going to have a few minutes, but maybe some lucky people will get on to speak with you about your new book. The phone number is 855-407-2822. If you want to speak with Laura Ingraham, a new book, Billionaire at the Barricades, that is the number to call. And I want to tell you this while you're still listening to me, by the way. If you travel for business, listen to me. You happen to know if you travel for business, there's wins and losses, right? Like popping open an overhead bin and you find it empty, that's a win. Sleeping through a wake-up call, that's not a win, that's a loss. Buying your business trip at Upside.com, that's not just a win, it's a triple win. Number one is this: Upside has the absolute best available prices for flights, hotel, or rental cars. Win number two is that Upside will reward you with a gift card to places like Amazon.com every time you buy a business trip. And number three is the amazing 6-star treatment you'll get from Upside's customer service specialist, who they call Navigators. One recent Upside customer was called away for an emergency meeting and had to miss his wife's birthday. So a Navigator sent her flowers to try and help ease the disappointment. That's pretty nice, right? And that's just one example of how Upside Navigators go above and beyond for business travelers. Imagine what they'll do for you. Upside Navigators are instantly accessible 24/7 by voice, chat, email, or message on the Upside app, even reaching out to you with useful info to help you avoid a problem before it happens. And I'm going to start your Upside 6-star treatment right now. Listen carefully. Go to Upside.com, use my code SAVAGE, and you're going to get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com. You heard me right. Using code SAVAGE, you're going to get a minimum $100 gift card to Amazon.com when you buy your next business trip at Upside.com. Upside.com. You deserve a better business trip. Minimum purchase required. See site for complete details.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Monday.
Welcome back to the one and only Savage Nation. I've done something for Laura I've never done for anyone in my life. I put her book and her picture ahead of mine on my own Twitter feed, Facebook, and website. Laura, do you know I did that for you? Could you believe that I did that for you, Laura?
Well, Teddy will be happy.
Very smart.
Teddy, not Laura.
Well, let me take a couple of calls for Laura with a new book, and we're going to hear about her tour coming up and all of that. I don't know if we have time for more than one call. We're swamped. Greg on KSFO line 8, fire away. What do you want to ask Laura Ingraham?
I'd just like to ask Miss Ingraham if she's going to have Dr. Savage on her TV show.
Ooh, Laura, I didn't set that call up. Do you want to answer it or not? Did she leave the studio? I don't know. What happened to Laura Ingraham? Wow. I guess we lost Laura. Laura, are you there?
I'm there, yeah.
Yeah, did you hear that question? I did not set it up, honestly. Do you care to answer it or not?
I didn't hear it. There's nothing that came through over the line, so you'll have to keep me in suspense or tell me.
He said, would you have Michael Savage on your new show?
Hello? I already told you you're coming on. What a joke.
Well, I didn't say that to anyone, Laura, because what did I say to you? I said, Laura, I'm such a good friend of yours. I don't need anything from you. I mean, no, that's not true. I said I don't need quid pro quo. I'm not trading. I just want you on my show, right?
This is what yes, you said that. Of course you said that. But, Michael, I have the best people on my shows. For me, it's all for one for all. I don't care about the competition. No one's competing. We're competing to save the country. That's all.
Oh my God, Laura, that's why I absolutely adore you. You are a tower in the media, Laura. You're really in a class by yourself. I'm not kidding. I'm not saying what I don't say to people privately. Laura, can you stay with us over the top when we come back just to talk about your tour and where you're going to be tonight, tomorrow?
I'm around. I'm not going anywhere.
Well, you're not around. You're in great shape. Don't say you're around.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. Warning. The Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of borders, language, culture. And here he is, winner of the National Radio Hall of Fame Award, Michael Savage.
In this world of increasing fear for expressing yourself, what could be better than talk radio, right? And here we have a woman, as brave as they come. She's been doing it for many years. A mother as well, by the way. Laura Ingraham with a new book, Billionaire at the Barricades. Laura, welcome back to the Savage Nation.
I'm on your Twitter feed. It's pretty cool to have my book and my face, and I'm just a peon compared to you, but it's pretty cool.
Laura, I've never done this for anyone, to show you what I will do for a friend.
Aww.
Well, first of all, I was tired of looking at my face with the God book. I'm glad to see someone nicer looking than me up there.
Oh, my God. Hey, can we do an event together in the Bay Area?
No, I would never subject you to that kind of abuse. I don't mean me.
What?
I'm not Harvey Weinstein. I'm not Harvey Weinstein-like. I'm saying the abuse of people who would, jeer us and throw like lettuce and tomatoes at us.
No. First of all, we would charge something so the freeloaders wouldn't come. Okay, so we'd charge something, but nothing too onerous. But then we would have our friends guarding our border. Our border would be guarded. Okay, so it would be okay. Plus, you're with me, and I'm a green belt. Last time I checked in Taekwondo, I'm all right.
Are you know Taekwondo?
Oh yeah, I used to take it, not anymore. But I do push.
So if a guy like Harvey Weinstein did what he did with the girls, what would you have done?
With my daughter Maria.
No. You say you're Taekwondo. You know a little bit. If a guy like Harvey Weinstein or Ben Affleck did what they do, what would you have done to them?
Oh, I'd probably do a roundhouse kick to the,
In other words, you don't need Taekwondo. That's just an old swift kick between the legs. That always works.
Roundhouse. It would be either go right for the neck or for the private part.
Laura, I once spoke to an Israeli martial artist or a military guy, great combat. He said, listen to me, the best move in any hand-to-hand combat is kicking a man between the legs.
Oh, yeah. You do that, or you scrape the inside of their shin. That is very painful with a heel. So you lift your knee up, and you just take the heel down toward the side of the shin right near the tibia. Forget it.
God. But in San Francisco, most people actually seek that out during certain parades.
Well, you have a fun town, that's for sure.
So, Laura, you're on a book tour with the new book. Tell me where you're going and when.
So tomorrow night I'll be in the Philly area, kind of South Jersey, North Philly, and then I'm going to Myrtle Beach on Friday, and I'll be at the Barnes & Noble there in the late afternoon. I'll be at Liberty University during the day, but that's their convocation, so that's mostly the students. And then I'm going to this thing called the Values Voters Summit in Washington. I'm going to speak late morning on Saturday. So, and then
who watches all your children when you're on the road? You have how many children, Laura Ingraham?
You've met them. What do you mean, how many? You've already forgotten.
No, but my audience doesn't know. Tell them how many you have.
I have my daughter Maria, who's now 12. She's so tall, Mikey, you won't believe it. She's almost my height. My daughter Maria is 12, already sassing me. My son Dimitri, who is 9, who's as skinny as a rail, but he's getting up there. And then Nico is my little Russian dictator. Okay, he's 7, and he is the most willful. I mean, you can't break him. He is just going to do it his own way. So I've basically just given up. I just let him run the house.
Unbelievable. No, I have to admire it, how you do all of this, and you're on TV, you're on radio, you do your tours, endless challenges.
Yeah.
Do you remember when we had lunch out here in the Bay Area in that Japanese hole in the wall? Remember that day?
Fun. It was good. Good food.
We were sitting there and having lunch, and 2 men were speaking Russian.
Oh, давайте говорите по-русски.
And I said, Laura, don't you speak Russian fluently? She said, yes. So I said, turn around and say something to these strangers. I thought they were spies. What did you actually say to them?
I just said, are you enjoying your lunch? And I said, where are you from? And I said, I studied in former Leningrad University, now St. Petersburg. And I said, help me practice my Russian. And they were like shocked because they were like, nope, not many people.
Laura, just for the sake of my large Russian-speaking audience, as you well know, I'm a spy for Putin, and I'm received directly in the Kremlin. Can you say all of that in Russian, please?
I can't say all of that. You're a spy for Putin? I don't know how to say spy for Putin.
No, what you said in the restaurant.
Давайте говорить по-русски. Меня зовут Лара Инграм. Я занималась в Ленинградском университете 25
I just felt like Barack Obama making believe I understood you by shaking my head. All the presidents do that. Have you ever noticed during foreign dignitaries as they speak, the presidents stand there like big schmendricks, and they nod their heads like they understand Spanish, Italian, Bulgarian, Russian. They don't understand a word. They all do it. They don't know what they're saying.
They stroke their chin and then go,
They're probably insulting the president, saying, "Look at that skinny moron." And
I like it when they don't know that the microphone is catching their remarks. That's always fun. Remember when? Do you remember when? What was it? Was it not Trudeau? It was what's the name? Sarkozy, who just completely slammed Obama on his first foreign trip. Remember that? For all the people saying they're criticizing Trump on his first foreign trip, I think he did a great job on his first foreign trip. Everyone
he did.
Was a total.
Well, let's talk about Trump. In your book, Billionaire at the Barricades, the populist revolution from Reagan to Trump. Let's talk about Trump. Is he in trouble, or is that just perceived because of the media assault?
I think he's. I'm not saying this because he's more of a conservative populist and I'm a conservative populist. I'm saying this because I really believe it. He's our only hope right now. I mean, if we think we're going to be saved by the likes of Mitch McConnell and these other Republicans like Lamar Alexander, and I mean, these guys can't get out of their own way. So
Laura, as he was running for office, we knew. Look, I knew his background as a liberal New Yorker. Everybody knew that. And we knew that he took the populist agenda and ran with it. A lot of it came from some of my books and from other people. That's fine. But I knew he had the best chance of winning. I knew the others could not beat Hillary Clinton. All right. So as it was getting closer and closer, I said, look, if we get 50% of what he promises, I would consider that a great victory because it'll be 150% more than we would have gotten from Hillary. And then toward the end, I narrowed it down to about 20% of what he promised. Even if we got 20% of what he promised, it would be 120% more than we would get from her. I think that's still a good analogy.
That's a terrific analogy, and I'm telling you, if for some reason one of these other Republicans had been able to beat Hillary, which they couldn't have, but let's say they could have, who thinks that Jeb Bush would have done anything except expand our trade deficit with China? Who thinks Jeb Bush would have done anything except get us into another war, and for sure give amnesty to all these illegals, and for sure put another Anthony Kennedy on the Supreme Court? So just on those measures alone, we're renegotiating NAFTA. Trump has made China bow down on the intellectual property theft. They're doing a whole 303 investigation on China, which had not been done in decades. He's doing all this stuff. Now, he doesn't get any credit for that, and that's fine. But they're doing real stuff. Bob Lighthizer at U.S. Trade and Wilbur Ross at the Commerce Department, these guys are doing the incredibly difficult work of renegotiating, and recrafting our entire trade apparatus. That's really hard stuff. That in and of itself will make the lives of average Americans better. So he has his foibles, he has his issues, we all do, but this man loves this country and he wants to win. These other Republicans want to respect their Democrat colleagues, go out for a drink at the end of the day with their Democrat colleagues, and go to their fancy conferences. Donald Trump wants to win. That's what he wants to do. We're
listening to the one and only Laura Ingraham, who, as you well know, is a regular voice on Fox News. She has her own show and is moving to an earlier time slot. She is a mother of 3, a cancer survivor. I'm sorry to have to say that, but I'm very proud of you to keep fighting, Laura. You're amazing. I don't think people know that you're also a brilliant legal scholar and that you were once a clerk for a Supreme Court justice. Can you just, in a minute or less, tell people about that part of your brilliant background?
Well, I went to the University of Virginia Law School after I worked for President Reagan. I thought it was important for me to kind of take the education up a notch, and I thought, being a prosecutor was what I wanted to do. And so I went to law school, and then I clerked on the Federal Court of Appeals in Manhattan. So I walked through the trade centers every day on the way to court, and then I got a clerkship with Justice Thomas on the Supreme Court. I was a white-collar litigator for 3.5 years at Skadden Arps, which is a big New York law firm.
Wow.
Wasn't really happy, and then I tried my hand in the media, but the law background really helps me every day in what I do on the air. So I'm glad.
Do you wish you had stayed in corporate law?
Not for a millisecond. Not for 1 nanosecond do I wish I was still in a big law firm. It was a nightmare for me personally. It's good for some people, but It's stalled.
Laura, let me take one quick call. I know you got to run. Hold on. Here's a great caller out of WABC in New York. Eunice, line 4. What's your question for Laura Ingraham?
Should Donald Trump fire Robert Mueller? Because he's supposed to investigate one thing, and now he's looking into completely...
Right. Laura, let's take that answer while the gentleman hangs up, because I have said on the air he should fire Mueller. What do you think, Laura?
I don't think that's the way to go. I mean, he has the constitutional right to do that, but I don't think firing Mueller is going to advance the Trump agenda. I think it's going to mire him back into the same the same non-story that has already given him a pain. I mean, the special counsel is a problem. It's a real problem. But I think he probably shouldn't have fired him the way he did. He fired Comey the way he did. He could have kicked Comey upstairs or done something else with Comey. I think that was an unforced error.
I was also told by an insider that the reason Trump cannot fire Mueller, even though he's constitutionally permitted to do so, is that Congress could immediately reappoint Mueller, and that would be a real problem at that point. The minute I come back, we have time for a couple of quick calls to Laura Ingraham about her new book, which is called Billionaire at the Barricades. I will be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
We're going to finish up. Laura has to go right after this segment. When I come back, I'll talk about stories you're not going to believe. I swear I haven't heard these anyway yet today. California permanently eliminated the high school exit exam requirement to make sure more submorons can get diplomas that are useless. White House requests $5 billion to ease the Puerto Rico fiscal crisis. Expect tax raises. Swedish death cleaning is the morbid new way to declutter your life. I like that topic. Laura, welcome back to the Savage Nation. I want to ask you something.
Yep.
The Russia collusion fiction that was invented by the Hillary Clinton campaign, is that dead in the water?
It's a complete and utter scam. The problem is, of course, is the special counsel can take the investigation anywhere he wants, which is why these special counsels are always a problem for politicizing the criminal law in this country. I don't think there's anything there with the Russia collusion. If there was, they would have already come out with something. But when they have unending funds to use to investigate anybody, I mean, it really is true, as Brendan Sullivan said all those years ago, you can indict a ham sandwich if you want to indict a ham sandwich. So that's a problem.
But why should a prosecutor who was brought in to investigate a specific allegation of collusion with Russia to tamper with the election, when we know that was fabricated by the Clinton camp, why should he now be able to investigate anything? How does that happen? You're the lawyer, not me.
Well, because the way the letter by the Deputy Attorney General was written, and the way the special counsel statute is written, it allows them to investigate potential criminal wrongdoing that they discover while they're doing their investigation. So that's how they phrase it. I'm paraphrasing it, but that's essentially what it says. It's very broadly worded. So the investigation that they undertake has to be directed toward uncovering a supposed Russian tampering with the election story. But while they do that, if they bring in a witness, and that witness is Mike Flynn, and they say, "Well, General, tell me who else came into Trump Tower in March of 2015. Well, I don't remember. Okay, well, let's subpoena those documents. And then when they subpoena the documents, they get other documents. Oh, this looks interesting. Let's go down that rabbit hole. Bring in that witness. And then
it sounds like the ex-Soviet Union, doesn't it? Like the Stasi.
It's a star chamber. Yeah, it's a star chamber, and several, of course, Hillary devotees and lawyers who actually worked for Hillary Clinton are actually working on the investigation.
Well, that's why America's political system is crippled, and the American people know that it's crippled. The American people know that most politicians are do-nothings. They have no faith in the system at any level, neither party. And that brings us back to Donald Trump in your book, Billionaire at the Barricades. The populist revolution that you're talking about, is it dead in the water, or is there anything left to hope for?
No, I think that Donald Trump, slowly but surely, is exposing the fault lines of American politics. So no longer can the Republicans and the Democrats just go behind closed doors and cook up a deal that surprises the American people, or that they can no longer just go campaign on one thing and then govern another way. He's going to call them out, and that's a powerful thing. I mean, you have incumbent Republicans who are losing their primary battles because the populists say, no, we're not going to do that. I mean, I helped defeat Eric Cantor in 2014, who was the worst of the worst on immigration, trade, you name it. And
where is he now? Where is Eric Cantor now? Working in a five and dime somewhere in Brooklyn?
Working for a financial firm in Manhattan. That's what he's doing. And he's writing op-eds for the New York Times criticizing.
Unbelievable. Well, Laura, look, I wish you the best on your book tour. When you go to a bookstore, do you have security, I hope?
Oh, yeah.
Have you had any numbskulls try to, like hurt you or anything?
No, not yet. I mean, they say some nasty things every now and then, but, I honestly do not care what anyone thinks of me except maybe my family and my dear friends like you. Other than that, I really don't care. I'm
glad you said it. I was going to be insulted if you didn't. I was hoping you cared what I think.
Come out to Philly tonight. I want all the Savage listeners to
Philly. Yeah. I want a Philly cheesecake sandwich. My heart needs it badly.
Oh,
Laura Ingraham, I wish you the best. Billionaire at the Barricades. I think it's going to do very, very well. I think it's a book for its time. Just take it easy on the tour. Remember, your life doesn't depend on it. I'm talking like a brother to you.
No, it doesn't.
In other words, if it makes it, it makes it. If it does big, small. Laura, what does it really matter at the end of the day? You have a beautiful career on television, radio, great children. You have me as a friend. What more do you need in life?
Oh, I want to be number one. That's what I know. That's what
I know. Competitive edge. You come from an athletic background. I get it. Laura Ingraham, thanks for being with us on the Savage Nation. When I come back, we're going to go to regular programming. That was irregular programming. And we'll go back to all the stories I started before, such as, the Harvey Weinstein jokes.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Mr. President, thank you for being my guest tonight. I can't thank you enough for doing this. It's incredible. And as I said, I always learn amazing things from you. Now, if I were to make a movie about your life, who would you want? And don't worry, you can name any actor. We won't tell anybody. Who would you want to play you, Mr. President?
Gosh, I don't know. I would trust your judgment more than mine on that.
Brad Pitt? George Clooney?
Too good looking. George Clooney is at least more my size.
Right, and not that good looking either.
No, too good looking. But you could put bulbous things on his nose. You could do makeup with him. And he was great. His movie last year was great. His Hawaii movie. What was the name of the movie?
Clinton. Descendants.
It's fabulous.
Right.
He was so good and it's so real.
I thought it was great too. And Hillary, who would you play Hillary in this movie?
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep would play Hillary in a movie. That's perfect. Very fitting. Okay. What else is in the news? Ben Affleck apologizes for TRL groping incident. Now he's apologizing. All right. We can go back to the old jokes. Let me do them, just in case you tuned in late or you didn't hear any of it in the beginning. Let's start with a cymbal shot or a little rolling of the drums. I'll start all over. Hey, welcome to the Savage Nation. I read that Harvey Weinstein flew in a private jet to Europe to get treatment for sex addiction. Well, that makes as much sense as going to Brazil to treat an addiction to Brazil nuts. Or, let us say, makes as much sense Harvey is going to Israel to treat anti-Semitic tendencies. Harvey Weinstein going to Europe to treat sex addiction makes as much sense as going to San Francisco to treat a fear of bums. See, I could be as terribly as boring as Jimmy Kimmel if I really want to be. Except the difference is I wrote these jokes. I don't think he writes his own jokes. 4:30 in the morning, I woke up laughing in the bed. The dog thought I was crazy. I said, I better write him down. I said, Harvey Weinstein going on a private jet to Europe to get treatment for sex addiction would be like going to the Playboy Mansion to treat a porn addiction. Or going to Iceland to cure your frostbite, Harvey. That's about the same thing. Or Harvey, let me tell you something. I don't think so, because I think it's like going to CNN to cure a lying habit. Harvey, going to Europe, where sex addiction began, and to get treatment for this sex addiction would be like going to the circus to cure your fear of clowns. Or sending someone you love to McDonald's to cure their bulimia. I don't think so. I think Weinstein has about as much chance to cure his sex addiction at a treatment facility in Europe as someone would be going to Las Vegas to stop their gambling addiction. let's say they're addicted to tobacco, I would say would be about as high a chance as asking Philip Morris to help you quit smoking. I like laugh tracks. That's like a crutch that people at late night television use. Let them try 3 hours of live. See what 3 hours of live feels like. I also want to get to these other stories today that may be of some interest to you. California permanently... That's not a laugh one. California permanently eliminated the high school exit exam requirement because too many morons were not graduating from high schools enough. They didn't have enough idiots graduating. They need all of them to graduate now. You see, Jerry Brown needs more morons to go out there and vote for him. So the California high school exit exam, which was the equivalent in New York of the Regents exam, used to be a requirement to receive a diploma in the state. But the criminals in the state legislature voted in 2015 to drop it. They didn't need it because they couldn't have enough idiots vote for them. And so diplomas were retroactively awarded to anyone who met all other graduation requirements after the test became mandatory must-pass exam in 2004. So that resulted in an estimated 40,000 former high school students who failed suddenly getting their diplomas so they can go to work for the state government. The new bill signed by Brown, AB 830, by Ash Kalra, Democrats San Jose, permanently eliminated the high school exit exam requirement. Now, why would they cancel such a test? Why? Because that would be a minimum standard. And although they're in favor of minimum wages, they're not in favor of minimum educational standards. This will prevent more non-English speaking illegal aliens to pass the high school exams. Next topic. Swedish death cleaning is the morbid new way to declutter your life. I got into that. I read that in great detail. Should we rather talk about Weinstein than this actually more interesting stuff? Because I asked for a psychologist yesterday to call on Weinstein's addiction. I know it can't be treated. And we got some callers on the Weinstein that are calling. I think we should take some of them, right? KSFO. Jane, you're a psychologist, I understand. Tell us about Weinstein. You think he'll get successful treatment in Europe?
Oh, of course. It'll be beautiful. Here's what will happen. The people who own those companies make about $40,000 minimum a month, and you have to stay 30 days. Michael, there's no boot camp for bad character. That doesn't work.
Well, what are they doing a sex addiction camp? Isn't it a good place to meet other people with sex addiction, which means you're probably going to hook up with them behind the scenes? Isn't that what happens?
Yes, it is what happens, and there's also a lot of money to be made in these treatment centers. Because
if a guy is a sex addict and he wants to meet someone, he should go to a sex addiction facility. Who do you think he's going to meet there? A nun? It makes no sense to me. WABC Avi, line 4. What do you got to say? What's on your mind?
Yeah, Mike. I was a waiter in a restaurant that he frequents plenty of times downstairs from his office. I'm not mentioning names. There's even proof in articles that my coworkers spoke about. Besides all these therapists and everything, he was a nasty person. He's just a horny alpaca, Mike. That's all he was. That's part of the business.
Well, we don't want to. I don't think we should run the guy down. But as a waiter, I just want to ask one: was he a good tipper?
Yeah, but besides that.
Well, wait a minute. Hold on. That's a lot better than a guy like Larry David, or what I would think.
Well, Mike, there's reasons why he tipped. You got to understand that. He tipped us because he was a very nasty person. Mike, the mess he made at the tables and the girls that he brought with him, he would leave the table for 2 to 3 hours and tell us not to touch anything. And he would go upstairs to his office and just...
Oh, wait, we can't run that on the air. That's a statement that I can't run. Well, what do you mean? He was a slob in like he'd leave a table messy?
Yeah, he would order... He used to love French onion soup. Remember French onion soup back in New York?
Yeah, but you're saying he slurped it all over himself?
Oh, it was all over. And the way...
Wait a minute. So there was a hygienic problem to go with the sex addiction?
Yeah. You can even see pictures of him online the way he dressed. Not...
Are you saying the pants hung down like a gangbanger in jail underneath the butt?
Yeah, and he always...
Oh, come on. Harvey's pants felt... I think you're making this up. Come on.
Mike, look it up. Google pictures of him on the street.
What else did he like to eat? French onion soup. Okay, what else? What was his favorite? Was he a fry eater?
He was just he would order always like French fries and burgers. But we were talking about like $25.
So he didn't know anything about health. No gluten-free food for him.
No. And
Are you kidding? I bet he knocked off a lot of bread. I bet you he knocked off a lot of French bread before the meal came.
But
I got you on that one. Okay, I mean, we're not saying anything that's indictable here. What did he drink? Was he a man who liked the wine or not?
yeah, whatever you ordered, whatever wine. I mean,
Like when he was with the girls in the restaurant, did they drink wine or hard liquor? What did they drink?
Wine.
Wine. Did he know one wine from the other, or was it all Manischewitz?
No, Manischewitz. He would just order anything expensive, but he would always prefer a certain female waitress. He wouldn't like us waiting on him, men.
But did you think he really knew the difference between one fine wine and another, or to him it was just a snob thing?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, just a snob thing. He didn't care.
How much money as a waiter did you make a week in that restaurant in tips? Forget him in general.
Just on tips?
Yeah.
Probably. I work three days a week. Probably anywhere between $500 and $800.
A night or the whole time?
No, the 3 days.
And you were a waiter? You're only making $250 a night?
Yeah, on tips, yeah.
Well, wait a minute. That's not enough money to live on in New York. You must have another job. What are you, Avi? What are you, a fireman?
No. I work for a trades union, but I work 2 or 3 hours a night, Mike. It was a friend's restaurant.
I understand. So that was extra money. It was like a lot more money than an Uber driver makes, for example.
If someone didn't show up, I came in, I covered the shift, and I was also a runner.
You know, I was once a waiter, a busboy, a lifeguard, a factory worker. I've done all of that kind of stuff. I actually enjoyed working tables because you get to talk to a lot of people. Did you get an opportunity to talk with Harvey Weinstein when you served him?
Well, he knew that I was Israeli born, and I know for a fact he didn't like that because he was very pro-Palestinian. There's even proof about that.
He was pro-Palestinian?
He even made a movie. I forgot the name of the movie he made. It was a pro-Palestinian movie that he was against the Likud party and Netanyahu. And I forgot the name.
Oh, so as an American leftist, he was anti-Israel. That's what you're alleging on my program.
I mean, I came here at 4 years old. He used to call me an IDF soldier. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, he was like that. But,
yeah, but you got a great New York accent for an emigre. You picked it up pretty good.
Mike, I came here at 4 years old.
But how did you get the accent? Where'd you grow up, in Brooklyn, like Brighton Beach?
No, Queens.
Yeah, but your accent is it from Queens or Far Rockaway a little?
No, Queens. Kew Gardens.
Yeah, a very good accent. Maybe you could work for Harvey in a picture in the future. Don't you love all the people that they put in movies with fake New York accents? They get like coaches to teach them how to sound like they're from New York, and no one sounds like they're from New York anymore?
Yeah, well,
I'm the only one who actually sounds like he's from New York. You know why? I was born there. Most of the people who are in the movies never were born there. They make believe they're from New York with they exaggerate it, or they play the Jersey accent. It's all wrong, totally wrong.
Yeah.
No one speaks like that. Avi, good luck. Thank you for calling. How about the fires in Northern California? Can we get serious for 2 seconds? Do you know that there are thousands of people out of houses? There's a lot of retirees. You have no idea what the suffering is. I'm not kidding you. And I still don't know how these fires started. I still am not accepting that they were spontaneous, that they just emerged and they came over the hills, because I know people from Sonoma and from Napa who say they have never, ever seen this number of fires start at the same time and move so quickly, ever. Lorraine, I know you're calling about this. Lorraine dropped, or she's still there? I can't see. Lorraine, welcome to the program.
I'm here. Hi.
Talk about the fires, Lorraine, fast, as quick as you can.
Okay. Well, what I will tell you is most of my friends up in Fountain Grove all lost their houses, and when the fire first started, my friend was halfway up Fountain Grove above the Hilton Hotel, and he was in his townhouse by the golf course. First the TV went out, then the power went out. There was no emergency response system. All my friends are telling me this. What happened to the radio emergency response and on TV did not happen. Firefighters up there were trying to tap the fire hydrants. There was no water pressure. They could not.
Oh my God! What happened to the water pressure? You know that there are so many dead now. 21 people died. 3,500 homes and businesses destroyed. And it's not getting enough national play. And this, by the way, it's an emergency disaster. Every system that was put in place didn't work, is what you're saying. It's what I'm hearing. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. He said the fire was coming up.
There was no way to communicate. All communications went down. Everybody with their emergency preparedness kits that they've been talking about for 10 years in California, everything failed when it was required. Typical government at work. This is the Savage Nation. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
It is the Savage Nation. Before we return to all the news of the day and take your calls, I got to tell you about Casper mattresses, because it's a great mattress. I do sleep on it every night. It's the best mattress I ever had, and it really does help me get the best night's sleep, period. Once you try Casper, you're going to love yours as much as I love mine. Switching to Casper is a no-brainer. It's a higher quality mattress at a more affordable price. I am sleeping cooler and more comfortable every night, thanks to Casper's 2 high-tech foams, much better than the old, overpriced mattresses, those kind. You see, Casper comes right to your door for free in a tiny little, how did they get it in that box? And they'll even pick it up if you don't love it and refund you every dime, from its breakthrough design and superior quality to its packaging to letting you try it for 100 nights. It's no wonder Casper was named one of Fast Company's 50 most innovative brands of 2017. Now, you know that sleeping on a mattress is the best way to try it. Put Casper to the test in your own home for 100 nights. Risk-free. Go to Casper.com, code SAVAGE, and you're going to get $50 towards the purchase of that mattress. You heard me. That's Casper.com, code SAVAGE, and you're going to get $50 towards the purchase of your mattress. Casper.com. Terms and conditions apply. God, we're almost out of time. How is that possible? Carl on WABC, line 3. Go ahead, please.
Dr. Savage, I just want to say that you, Laura Ingraham, myself, I think you're motivated by love for our country, and you're trying to get the word out to young people, old people. The Weinsteins, the Schumers, and the Pelosi's are motivated by power, money, greed, and they have a belief system, and they want to have their agenda. And
here's the part that bothers me. In past generations, there were great directors and producers and studio bosses, but without exception, every one of them was patriotic. They would never have thought of making a movie that smeared the military or police or the church or the family. And now you take a guy like Weinstein, you look at the history of his movies, with rare exception, every last one of them either has a gun in it, a knife in it, a beating, a killing, a murdering, a rape, a this, a that. How could that not affect the mind of the American people? How can we not agree with me when I say, and not so jokingly, the sewer pipe of Hollywood? Who do you think is in charge of the flow of that sewerage? It's men like Harvey Weinstein, in my estimation. There is no underestimating the psychological damage that not only he, but every one of those people who call themselves victims is responsible for. Make no mistake about it. Maybe he victimized them, but let me tell you something. The garbage they produce is still part of the sewer pipe of Hollywood. I'll be back on the Savage Nation talking about everything you could imagine. Be here or be nowhere.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.